Hello, I'm Ed Owen, Communications Director at Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunals Service. I'm delighted to be able to welcome you all today to this online reform event. Today's event actually was due to take place a few weeks ago where we had technical problems, so we're delighted that this event is now we're able to hold this event. It's part of a series of events that we'll be delivering online and face-to-face around the country over the next few months. We've organised and held a number of events in recent months, and they will continue alongside the development of the reform programme as a whole. All our events provide an opportunity for those who use our courts and tribunals to learn about what we're doing, to ask questions, and to help us to shape future reform. The purpose of today's event is to look in detail at just two particular areas of reform, both in the family jurisdiction. And starting today's proceedings will be HMCTS's Deputy Director in Family, Adam Lennon. Adam will talk about some of the work so far to create a fully digital service to apply for divorce, as well as work in financial remedy. We'll then be hearing from Emma Petty, Service Manager in Family, Public Law and Adoption. And Emma will tell us about the work within HMCTS in an ongoing pilot that is changing the way local authorities apply for care and supervision orders. She'll then share some of the other developments in this area of work. But obviously an important part of this event is for the opportunity for us to hear from you. And so at the end of the session, we're going to be providing enough time for those who have joined us online to put questions to both Adam and Emma to ask them about our work in these relevant areas. So there are some already who've submitted questions online, and thank you for those. But we do urge attendees to submit questions during the presentations that you will hear, and we will obviously endeavour to answer as many of those as possible within the next hour. If it's probably likely we're not simply don't have the time to be able to do that as part of this online event, we'll make sure all those questions are answered in written form, and they will be posted on our gov.uk site, which you can find through the on the email which alerted you to this event in the first place. So so it's really important that we hear from you, that we engage effectively as we're developing these important reforms. And I'm delighted now to hand over to Adam Lennon, who will now take us through his presentation. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Ed. So last time that we spoke or did an event similar to this for family was at the end of October. And so I really want to use this time to tell people what's new since then. So what new has happened in divorce since that event. But I'll briefly just recap where we are at the moment with online divorce. So we're now at the 35,000 mark for actual applications we've had since we launched on public beta at the end of beginning of May. We're probably nearer 36,000 now, because we're getting roughly about 800 to 1,000 a week applications come through that a month come through that channel, and 56% of all personal applicants are using it. So at the moment it's only available nationally to people in person, but more than half of those people are choosing to use our service, and that is going up significantly each month. And people like it. So people are, the feedback we've got, there's some on the screen there about how this actually helps people who otherwise would have had to struggle out either to post manual paper copies of things, or to understand the forms that how we previously had them on paper. So we've got a satisfaction rate of 84%, which is exceptionally high across government digital services. So compared to other digital services, that is a really good figure, even if it's not a good figure on its own, which I think it is. We're also doing some work on financial remedies at the moment. So we've got a pilot that's been ongoing since about the autumn, and we've got a number of legal professionals signed up to use that service in a pilot mode. So it's not available on gov.uk as yet, but we are inviting people to use it, and that's going really well. We've got a group of judges across the country, so this is not based in any geographical location, and they are dealing with the consent orders a lot quicker than they are able to on paper. So we're cutting down the time that it takes to go from receipt through to resolution of that application, and we had one case where it was actually done in 3 hours, so that wouldn't have even left the post room of the solicitors before. And on this instance, the solicitors got the actual final sealed order in 3 hours back from us. We are inviting more people to use this service at the moment, so we'll circulate those details at the end of this presentation. We aren't able to go and have every solicitor in the country using it yet. We haven't got the capability for that, but we are wanting to up our numbers. So if you are interested, then watch out for that email address for you to register your interest, and we'll be in touch as soon as we can. So since the event in October, we've done a new release, which it's in pilot, but it's basically for all digital applications for a couple of the facts that people use for their divorce. And that is so that people can respond digitally, so the respondent can respond online to their divorce from their other half, and the applicant can apply for their decree nisi online. So some of the steps in that are fully automated, so there is no staff involvement in there waiting for it to open the post, to be put on a manual court file, to be sent up to a judge. So good chunks of that are automated, and that's where the the benefits come from for the users, because things can happen much more quickly without having to wait for us to have the right resources in place to do that. I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, and also the fact that we've got our first new courts and tribunals centre. We have two that have opened recently, so the one in Birmingham, one in Stoke. The one in Stoke is the one which is processing the divorce applications, and again, I'll speak more about that later. So just to give you a brief overview of the divorce process as we stand at the moment, you can see from this diagram that you can apply online, you can apply for your acknowledgement of service online, so you respond online, and you can apply for your decree nisi online. So this is all through the gov.uk page. We then have still got a couple more stages to digitise, but people are still applying for their decree absolute via email rather than via post. So it's a fully digital process, if you like, but it's not the end state that we want the process to be in. But you can see there how sort of 90% of the journey for someone in person has been digitised, and we've just got the last couple of parts there to cover off. So what's new? So we've said already that since January, respondents are being asked if they want to respond online, if they have got the fact of behaviour, or they have got the fact of 5 years in desertion. So how that happens is they still get a letter through the post as they do on the paper process, but instead of that having an acknowledgement of service with it, they are given the opportunity to respond online with a unique reference code. And we're finding that on the whole, the vast majority of respondents prefer that method than completing a paper form and posting it back to us. So that has been in operation since January. Either this week or next week, we're expanding that to all of the facts for divorce. So every single digital application will have the option of going down this route, and the response has been really good from the respondents that have used it. So you can see here what the respondent will view when they log in, and this is a similar view for the applicant, so they can actually see where their case has got to. They can go online, they can see what stage it's at, what's happening next, and what they need to do next, and they give us some clear, simple instructions about what they can do, whether they want to defend the case. If they choose to defend it, they're told what that means and what they will have to do to follow through on that defence, or they're given the options to acknowledge it and say they don't want to defend it. So we're really hopeful that the research will prove, or that the reality will prove, that people getting this information won't then need to phone up the court and find out where their case is, because it will be logged into their account and they'll be able to know what stage they're at. As I said, the applicant then gets the chance to apply for their decree nisi online. So once the respondent has responded and they don't want to contest it, the applicant will be told you can now apply online. And again, they'll log in, they'll see that status bar about where they're at and what needs to come next, and they'll be asked some simple or easy to understand questions to allow them to apply online for their decree nisi, which will then go to a judge for them, or a legal advisor for them to view that digitally and record their decision digitally. We then go back to more of a manual process from there onwards, but as I said, we're still encouraging the use of email rather than reverting back to paper at that stage. So the big change as well that happened in January is that we opened our Courts and Tribunals Centre in Stoke. So this is where all new digital applications are being dealt with from people in person. So this centre has been set up from a fresh piece of paper. We've not set this up in an existing court centre to utilise the same tools and paper-based process that we had. This is all based on the new digital process. So there is no paper that is allowed in the Courts and Tribunal Centre. It is all digital. And as I said, lots of the steps in the divorce process are automated, and therefore we need less actual staff in that building to process the same volume of work as they would do if it was on paper. So what does this really mean for those people who are using the service? Well, they're going to get a better service to start with. They'll get quicker responses. They'll know where their case is at. They'll know what needs to happen next, and they'll know what it's waiting for. And steps will just happen quicker. Now, the aim is that all divorce applications will eventually be dealt with at the CTSC. So once we're able to launch a national service for solicitors, that will be administered through the CTSC, and the same for financial remedy. That will be administered via this Courts and Tribunals Service Centre. There's a bit of a the actual, when we say administered by the Courts and Tribunals Centre, there's a bit of a misunderstanding there, a bit of a red herring there, because lots of the work is not administered at all. It's the computer system that does that administering and pushes the paper pushes the application from one stage to the next, without needing staff involvement. And that's sort of the one of the benefits of having it in this new environment rather than in a paper-based environment. Paper applications are still going to be dealt with at the regional divorce centres that we've got at the moment. And the key thing there is that those centres are going to have more capacity, because we are taking a big chunk of the work that they have, or the new incoming work they have, to the new centre in Stoke, and the resources are being maintained for the time being at those divorce centres to enable us to offer a more speedier turnaround of the work that's in there at the moment, because I know there are some significant delays there at the moment, and we want to do all we can to improve that situation. So finally, I'm just going to cover what's coming next for divorce. What we want to do next is the outcome of the decree nisi digitally and the decree absolute applications. So to do that, we also have to implement a system for the judges and the legal advisors to be able to record their decisions digitally in a consistent way. We've got an interim process that works pretty well, but we want to do something better and something more efficient to allow that to happen. So those two things we're hoping will come in the next few months. We'll be able to have an end-to-end service for a straightforward divorce, being completely online, and with very little HMCTS involvement in the actual administration of those cases from day to day. Key thing we're wanting to get up and running is the national service for legal professionals. So our pilots are working very well, and the feedback is fantastic, and we just want to get that service out there to more solicitors and legal professionals, so that they can correspond with us digitally rather than on paper. Some of the things that are stopping us doing that are the fact that we need to have some improvements to our registration system that we have, and the identities of the solicitors involved, so that they can delegate that work amongst an organisation. At the moment, it's a one login, one user system, and obviously in lots of firms that is not the optimum way that you work, and that you have those firms have lots of people that work on the same cases. So we need to get that cracked before we can go national. I'm hoping that will be at some point towards the end of the summer, but those dates aren't confirmed yet. It's something we're working on in earnest at the moment. Financial remedy applications falls into the same pot as that. We are very close to be able to launch that on a bigger scale, and as such, that's why we've asked for more people to apply to be part of the pilot for us, so that we can test that further. And of course, we want to add on the other sorts of dissolution proceedings that we have, so nullity, civil partnerships and judicial separation. They'll all come at the end of the divorce process. Once we've got that sorted end to end, we'll then go back to the beginning and look at nullity, civil partnerships and judicial separation, and tweak the service so that it applies for that. We've then got the final element, if you like, of the divorce process, where things aren't always straightforward, where we have to have some sort of service application for the respondent who doesn't respond. So that's things such as bailiff service and deemed service, and that's something we're going to be looking at during the summer to try and get that online. And finally, last but not least, is the Welsh language provision. We need to provide this service in Welsh language. We've got a firm commitment to do that. We are waiting until we've got the end-to-end service online in English, and then we'll very quickly, hopefully, move over to Welsh language provision for that. So, in a nutshell, that's the latest update on divorce and financial remedy. And I'll look forward to answering some questions at the end that I'm sure have come in on that. And I'll hand over to my colleague Emma Petty to talk about adoption and family public law.
Thank you, Adam. We stood up the project in October 17. We started with family public law and we commenced adoption the following year in 2018. Before we set our vision, we engaged with users to really understand the current as-is process, what works well, and the areas of opportunity for improvement. Once we did that, it was really clear what our key objective was: to improve the tools and systems that support the public law outline, and also take the same approach for the adoption service. Bring in efficiencies, ensuring the right information is provided to the parties in the case at the right time. Our research enabled us to design the future service that would bring those efficiencies. Taking family public law, for example, we have introduced an online application. Users told us that the application currently was long, repetitive, it needed to be smart, and it needed to draw out the right information for our gatekeepers. We knew technology could do that. We were able to design an intuitive application, and you'll see later on that we've done that, and I'll talk about that in more detail. We also wanted to revise the signposting, revise guidance, include nudges. So where we have the application, you can hover over and find additional information, and that's something we're looking to introduce in the future. And also improve in signposting to users for support. We also wanted to look at visibility of cases. So introducing technology, allow parties to be able to see the progress of the case and case progression. So the ability to track directions, allowing parties to upload documents relevant to a direction and tick that it was complete. This then provides judiciary and parties with easy sight of whether a case is ready for hearing. As well as this, we at the hearing stage, where appropriate, we want to be able to have the option of video hearings that the Video Hearing Project are developing, and also introduce software so when you are in the courtroom, you can view the bundle or the documents at the same time, same information from screens in the courtroom. Finally, we also wanted to use that same software for orders, so the ability to draw up orders in the courtroom collaboratively, and then also the ability to access orders straight from the system. Whilst doing all of the above, a need was flagged to us to find a solution that will allow a local authority to upload a bundle or documentation in a shared space that the court and parties could see and download, which was of course secure but could also be accessed by all that needed it. So with the knowledge that the concept was already in development, we drove this forward and we soon had the shared storage solution. So the shared storage solution was a simple concept. Local authorities can upload a bundle, any other documentation, and the court can view. We tested this in Swansea, and this has been successful. We've had, I think today, over 150 applications, and feedback from our users said, really easy to use, does what it says on the tin. So based on the successful testing of the shared storage solution, we were able to incorporate that solution into our overall digital system. So that brings me on nicely to our private beta. So the private beta pilot is the first phase of our new digital system. It allows a local authority to submit an online application. The application, once submitted, goes to the respective family court and also CAFCAS. Gatekeepers can view the application, they can upload standard directions, and then the local authority in CAFCAS, once that standard direction is available, can go into the system and view it. We're currently piloting in 4 sites, and they are Portsmouth, Stoke, Swansea and West London. The pilot launched on the 31st of January this year, and today we have over 70 applications that have been issued and progressed. The pilot, we've received early feedback, and that feedback has been really positive. For example, we have had from gatekeepers, they're saying to us that the application, the detail within the application is comprehensive. Local authorities are telling us that actually to complete the application is much quicker than the previous application. The number of users that are involved in the pilot have increased, which demonstrates to us the keenness to be involved in this pilot. I'm now going to show you a video to give you an insight as to how our pilot works. This takes us right from application through to the first stages of gatekeeping, and then I will talk a little bit more once the video is finished.
HMCTS Family Public Law Online Service Pilot Demonstration. The local authority decides start proceedings for a care and supervision order based on threshold criteria being met. The local authority logs into the Family Public Law online service. The lawyer can create and start an application. They will log in with their own personal credentials. They will then be taken to the dashboard for the service. They can select Create New Case, where they can select the jurisdiction and the case type for their application. They can name the case and edit it, and the system provides a unique ID for each case. And select Save and Continue to create the case. The digital service splits each section of the application form into different events, which they can select depending on what information they have. And the local authority can select the orders and directions they require. And this includes emergency protection orders. Over 40% of applications are urgent applications within 48 hours, which puts pressure not only on the court, but on the other users involved. To relieve some of this pressure, we've introduced 2 new timescales for hearings, within 7 days and within 12 days. A typical example of when a hearing can be requested in 7 days is if a child is still in hospital. The local authority can then select the type of hearing they need, such as a standard case management hearing. They can then proceed and say if they require a without notice hearing, a hearing with reduced notice, and if the respondents are aware. The application being designed so any section of the application can be completed in any order. A history and audit trail is provided to show which user completed which section. Special measures for a hearing can be entered here. again providing further details if required. Colleagues in the same organisation can log in and out and provide additional information. Again, they would log in with their own secure login details, enter the information and save it in the system. System records which users updated certain information in certain areas, and then is shown in the audit trail. The user can then jump to which part of the application they wish to complete next. They can attach supporting documents or advise if a document is to follow. To upload a file, you select down Choose File. You then select the correct document and then confirm that it's been attached. If a document is not yet available, you can advise the court by clicking on the status and selecting to follow. You can then provide the reason as to when you expect to have the document. You can then proceed to add all the other annex documents available for the case. You can add any additional documents, such as the index checklist and the threshold criteria, and the ability to replace or remove documents. Okay, moving on to grounds for the application. This can be selected from the drop-down menu. The user can select the reason why the threshold criteria has been met. They can also provide details of the criteria in the free text box below. Completed sections can be reviewed from the tabs across the top of the dashboard. The user just needs to select which tab and then review the information entered. Based on user research, we introduced a new section to the form called Risk and Harm Factors, which can be selected from the drop-down menu. This provides the local authority with the opportunity to provide flags to the gatekeeper or legal advisor in terms of the nature of the case. Similarly, the local authority can flag factors affecting parenting, such as the mother has ongoing alcohol issues, as well as anything else that's affected parenting. The local authority can enter information regarding international element, such as whether another family could potentially be assessed. They can advise if there's been other proceedings, and whether these are ongoing proceedings or previous proceedings. They can enter the case number and the date the case started, as well as the judge and which child the case is relevant to, and include the Kafka's guardian and whether the same guardian is required. During our research, we learned it would be helpful to have a link to the President's guidance when they're completing the application. Along with the schedule, these can both be accessed via a link in the service. And then make an allocation proposal based on that guidance. The application can then be reviewed, using the tabs to review each section that's been completed. Information can be amended or updated as required. And once the local authority is happy with the application, it can be submitted and sent to the court. The local authority will select a box to say they agree with the information in the application and select Submit. The local authority will receive notification that the application has been sent, and the court and Kafkas will also receive an email notification to say a new case has been submitted. A new look PDF of the application will be generated and stored in the system. The new look PDF application has been designed again based on user research. The court admin team will receive the email notification and click on the link contained in it. They can log in and review the application. The court admin team will also have their own security credentials which they use to log into the service. They will receive the application in their case list and can select on the link to enter the case. They can review the information from the tabs or download the PDF application form. Once they have completed the necessary checks, they then enter the information into the Family Man system. They can then enter the Family Man reference number to the case. The next action is to send to the gatekeeper to review the application and make an allocation. They can enter the gatekeeper's email address and click Continue to send the application. They can also add any additional notes or instruction for the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper will then receive a notification email to say that an application has been sent for an allocation to be made. The gatekeeper can log in and review the application. To allow them to make their allocation and then create standard directions. The standard directions order and lots of proceedings can be uploaded to the system, where again they can be updated or replaced with a newer version. Once all the documents have been uploaded, the local authority and Kafkas can log in to view all the documents as soon as they're available. The local authority can then add the court bundle to any case that's existing in the system. This then concludes our current scope for a private beta.
So the video that you've just seen is the scope of the pilot. It was purely based on our user research and working closely with our judicial working group. It was our what I call our starter for 10 within legal remits, but it was really about gathering all of that information as to how we could improve the current application. And it's not until actually you put it into a live environment that you can really test that. And so naturally, we know there'll be improvements required as a result of the pilot, and we're really looking forward to working with those users to make those improvements. And that is the beauty of working agile, is that actually this service will be shaped by our users, and they will go through this journey with us. So the online application through to the first stages of gatekeeping, that will continue to be piloted. We will make changes, and then we will look at the next stages of the end-to-end service. In addition to family public law, we also have our adoption service. So we took exactly the same approach as family public law. We spoke to all of our users across the country. We understood the current position, what works well, where there's room for opportunity. And then we have designed high-level future service based on this feedback. So what's next for family public law and adoption? So as I mentioned earlier, we're progressing the pilot. We've got some workshops in the diary with our pilot users to look at in more detail the changes required. And then we will be able to, with the help of our development team, make those changes and release those features, and then continue testing. Then we'll look at actually how can we extend the service to a wider group of local authorities. So we'll be working with local authorities on that very soon. And then for adoption, very much in the same way as family public law, we know there's a lot of value in the online application. So we'll be building a prototype of an online application. And in parallel to that, we will then start looking at developing the digital capabilities for family public law. And then whatever we can reuse for family public law for adoption, we will do so. And then identifying those bespoke things for adoption. So that really gives us an overview of family public law and adoption. I hope that was helpful. And now I think we're going to go on to some questions.
Thank you so much, Emma, for that presentation, and thank you, Adam, beforehand, talking about divorce. We have got time for questions, and thank you for those attending online for submitting those questions. I'm going to split them up between Adam and Emma, obviously corresponding to the particular issue. Just to say, we've had more than 200 people part of this event, which is great, and obviously the more people that we can engage with on these issues, the better, and I hope the presentations have been helpful, and we'll try and respond to as many questions as we can. So I'm going to start with you, Adam, on divorce. We have a question from Liz Trinder, who asks, do we know why some litigants in person are still choosing to apply on paper and not online?
I mean, that's a question we've been asking ourselves recently and since the beginning of the project, really. We are starting, or we have already started some research into why that's the case. The difficulty we have there is that our paper-based processes don't allow us to interrogate what's coming through to us on paper very well without manual intervention to go and look at what those paper cases are. So in short, the answer is we don't 100% know what the reasons are. We know that it's going up each month. The proportion that are using the digital system, and we know that a greater percentage of people are coming to us that are litigants in person as opposed to represented. But in short, we don't really know, haven't got to the crux of why some people are still using paper. There is just the fact that paper has been part of the system for a number of years, and there's a strategy to encourage and promote people moving off it. And as time goes on, that will happen naturally. And I guess to finish off, we are where we thought we would be in terms of digital take-up, in terms of the projections across other government services. So we are in a very similar uptake pattern, if you like, to other government digital services which have launched over the last few years. So there's nothing surprising in there, but equally we're keen to really get to the crux of what more we can do to help people to move to the online system.
Thank you. The question is for you, Emma, on family public law. It's a question from John. What training is offered to judges on the new processes brought into the family court?
So for family public law in particular, we've obviously just launched our pilot. And so for judiciary, we worked with them at the pilot sites on a one-to-one basis and tailored that information. So we produced a training pack. Both the project and the admin team worked together to provide any training to judiciary. It has been quite limited because the pilot is limited. So actually the functionality within the system for judiciary is quite small at this stage, but it's allowed us as a pilot to work at what's worked well in terms of the training. Then we'll work with the judicial office because as we expand, the project itself won't be able to provide training on that sort of wider scale. So we work with the judicial office with the materials that we've already produced and sort of building on them to provide a full training package.
Thank you very much. Adam, back to you on divorce. When will the online divorce service be opened up to more solicitors? And that's a question from Helen.
Okay, thanks for that question, Helen. So as I said at the beginning, we are able to open up the financial remedy element of the service to more solicitors, and are actively asking for that. On the divorce side, we want to get the service end to end. So we want solicitors to be able to apply online and reach the decree absolute stage before we are opening it up past the current level. And some of the reasons for that are how it gets complicated with the respondent not knowing whether they're in person or whether they are got a solicitor representing them. We need to make sure that we can offer the service for those two eventualities on there, and we need to make sure it's manageable in the divorce centres at the moment. If it's not fully digital, it is resource intensive for the administration to administer the online divorce cases in their current state for solicitors. So in short, we need to do more of the journey online for solicitors. That will follow very quickly after we've done it for people in person. So once we've done the decree side for people in person within a month, the aim is to have that available for solicitors. So I at the moment I can't give any firm dates, but I'm hoping that by the end of the summer, very early autumn, we will be able to offer this out to a lot more legal professionals than we are at the moment.
Thank you, Adam. And to you, Emma, back on family public law, a question from Catriona. In the drop-down menu for registration of care order applications, can one add details of other proceedings in any court or tribunal? If not, can this be amended?
So yes, within the body of the online application, it does ask about other proceedings. So that is some elements of that is free text. So you do have the ability to do that in a free text format. And in future, we may, based on user feedback, decide whether it should have its own header within the drop-down box. So thank you very much for that suggestion.
Thanks, Emma. Back to divorce. Adam, will there be, and if so when, an online service for those whose divorce petition is contested?
Okay, so there are two elements to that. There is when a divorce petition is contested, so that's when the respondent has indicated they might want to defend the case, and then there's the actual reality of the respondent actually defending the case. So less than 2% of people say that they want to contest it, and less than, I think it's less than 0.5% actually do defend their case. So we're talking about a very small number of the overall process there. And as such, we are considering our options for how we deal with that online. So people will be able to indicate that they want to defend their case online. They can do that now with acknowledgement of service. However, we might we've not really landed on the design for how we accommodate the actual lodging of the defence online, because the numbers are quite low, and if they continue to be low, we may well say that isn't an online process, and that's something which could be dealt with via the use of either smart forms or bulk scanning and printing. So I can't give a date for that yet. It's one of the things that we know we need to accommodate, but it's also one of the smaller things that we can live with the current process until a bit towards the end of the project.
Thank you. Emma, back to you on family public law. A question from Mansour. Will the work of the project look at the wider experience of court users, especially children?
So as part of our research, we did look at initiatives that are sort of being undertaken in the country today, in particular the voice of the child. So as part of our research, of course, the child is paramount. So for us, the objective is to make sure the information that that's collated on that digital system it helps towards getting the best outcome for the child. In terms of initiatives that are currently in practice, at this time we don't plan to make that a national initiative, but we are certainly monitoring the local initiatives, and we'll review that further along in our development of our service.
Thank you. I've got a few more questions on family public law, which I'll keep you in the hot seat.
Yeah, sure.
Emma, what are a question from Julia? What are the timescales for the rollout of the public beta across the country?
So our first step is to sort of make the initial changes, and then we would like to look at expanding that to a wider pool of local authorities, and then introduce another user. So, for example, legal professionals that are representing parents. But in terms of national rollout, we're just currently looking at do we release just the application nationally, or do actually we progress and develop our service further? And so, for example, I talked about introducing task management, which I feel really will add value to our users. So I think the intention is that we develop more of the service and then we roll it out. So I know that doesn't actually answer the question of timescales, but it's just to really give that further information that if it was as easy as just releasing the online application, we could do that in quite a reasonable time. But I think there is merit in waiting and expanding the development of the service before we release it nationally. And of course, we'll keep our users updated on that through the newsletters that we're doing.
And we've got two questions from Jerome, which I'm going to put to you. Firstly, is gatekeeping centralised or local? And secondly, how can other local authorities take part?
Okay, so first question in terms of gatekeeping, as a project at this point in time, we've made the decision to keep that function local, and that is based on information from our judicial working group and also the other users that we've engaged with. And so as a project, we don't intend to change that to a centralised function and it will be to be reviewed, you know, further down the line as to once we've embedded the digital system, how is that working, and really work with judiciary to see actually should there be any changes made to the gatekeeping function.
Thank you. I'll ask you one more question if I can. How are you collecting and measuring feedback from the people involved in the pilot?
So we've got on the pilot, we've got a button that you can actually directly put feedback into the system. So we've got that element, and we find that facility is used to provide changes, suggested changes. And then we also have the pilot sites have a workbook that they use to actually let us know actually was there any missing information, how long has it taken. So we're measuring a number of sort of indicators to sort of assess the success of our pilot.
Thank you so much, and we're almost out of time, so I'm going to thank Emma and Adam for both their presentations and for answering the questions that have been put. And I hope it's been helpful and informative for all those who've joined our session today. So particularly thank you for joining us, and for those who've posed questions. And I do apologise if we haven't been able to answer any question that has been put. And as I said at the outset, we will be both posting a recording of this event online on our website at www.gov.uk/HMCTS, and any questions that we haven't been able to answer, we will be answering in writing and posting that online. So I hope that deals with any questions that we haven't been able to answer in the live format. It's a reminder to all those who are joining that website address, which I've given you, www.gov.uk/HMCTS, is also our homepage for a whole range of information about the reform programme, including a link to the latest issue of the reform update. So please do use that for any information that, about reform on the work of HMCTS. We are very keen to get feedback from all those who've attended online to this webinar, and questionnaire will be sent shortly to all those of you who have participated, and I do hope you can fill that in, because we constantly looking to improve the way that we engage all our those who court users and those who are we work with at HMCTS. So please, that would be very valuable. Thank you again for listening, for joining, and for submitting questions, which I hope has been a informative and useful session, and we hope to speak to you soon. Bye.